Hey Squishies! Back again, another vlog. This is Gravity Falls Season 2, Episode 17. I'm totally blanking on what the title of it was. Anyway, this is the one where Mabel is increasingly worried about their coming 13th birthday in the end of summer, while Dipper goes on an adventure into a crashed alien spaceship with Ford. I was right. Looks like last episode was the last before... I'm assuming from here on out it's the finale, because, I mean, they said the apocalypse is happening at the end of the episode, so I'm guessing this was essentially part 1 of 4, which means my suspicion was correct. The last episode was like the last, breath before the plunge. It was the equivalent to the 5th to last episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender, Ember Island Players, which was just like a fun one-off episode and sort of a recap before the end. Last episode didn't have any recap elements, but I really like this episode. I think I commented on this a little early in the season, but this is a really good job of balancing Mabel and Dipper's roles. Mabel gets a little bit like damsel in distressy at the very end, but I mean, Dipper has been tricked that way before, so whatever. More important was that like the two stories ran in parallel really well. They weren't the kind like doing the same emotional beats at all. It was the opposite, and that's something that can work very effectively. Is, on one story we have Dipper essentially getting everything he wants and learning and growing and becoming stronger, while on the other side we have things getting worse and worse for Mabel. It's a good, like, diverging kind of a structure, where oftentimes when shows integrate their A and B plots well, it'll be by having them parallel one another. To use a show that Gravity Falls has a lot in common with and draws on very heavily, in the second season of Twin Peaks, there are two investigations running concurrently. Donna is pursuing a mystery, and oh my god, I'm blanking on his name. Agent Cooper is pursuing a completely different mystery, but they hit some of the same beats at the same time, like both of them entering a dark and dangerous place at around the same time and around the same episode, that kind of thing. This is doing the opposite. This is not paralleling the characters, but diverging them, opposing them. And it's less common way of doing it, but it's a great way of doing it. It really, intensifies both, because we have that contrast. So as things are going better and better for Dipper, that's intensifying how much better that feels. And as things are getting worse for Mabel, it's intensifying how much worse that feels, because we know what's going on with Dipper. The whole time she's discovering, high school is going to be terrible, her friends aren't going to be around for the end of summer, she's going to have to say goodbye to everyone in Gravity Falls. At the same time, on the other track, you've got Dipper, finally getting, the complete acceptance and guidance from Ford that he wanted. Exactly what he's wanted the whole series, which is to become the apprentice of the author of the journals. He's not going to have to go to high school. It's, it's pretty clear, the way they're building this opposition. Very well done. And, you feel for both of them. You feel bad for Mabel and you feel good for Dipper at the same time. It's very well done. Wendy is 100% right about high school. High school is a fucking nightmare. I remember it well. Actually, I don't remember it very well at all, and I'm glad of that. I remember enough, let's put it that way. There's been a lot of discussion over the past 10 years or so as far as education reform is concerned, and why are our high schools so terrible? Because it is mostly a North American problem. The U.S. more than other countries, but Canada has it too. High schools in other English-speaking countries have some of the problem, but not as bad. But American high schools in particular are ridiculously cliquish. Just cauldrons of, if not outright violence, which very often they are, but immense amounts of bullying and feuding and children just tearing each other apart. And there's good reason to think that the reason is that college is simultaneously too easy and too hard. By which I mean not college, high school. I keep accidentally saying college. American colleges are pretty much fine. They don't really have many problems at all, except that they cost way too much. American high schools are the problem. And there's a lot of research showing that the problem is simultaneously children are given an enormous amount of pointless work. They're given rote drills and just piles and piles and piles of homework, ridiculous amounts of homework. You're going to school for 8 hours a day and then getting 6 hours of homework a night. That's insane. At the same time, they're not being challenged at all. The homework is tedious and harshly graded, but not actually difficult. They're not being expected to learn very much at all. In fact, the pace of learning is quite slow, as a general rule, in high school compared to what it could be, what it is in other countries. Kids are coming out of high school with what would be an 8th grade education in, Germany or wherever. And yet they're doing massively more work to achieve that result. And it's not that American kids are, dumb or something compared to kids in the rest of the world. Kids everywhere are basically the same. The problem is that we're basically determined to make high school suck as much as possible. The problem is that a 16, 17-year-old kid is old enough to start taking some responsibility for themselves, but we don't allow them to. And so horrors occur. I don't blame Mabel at all for not wanting to go into that. She's also been given this rosy picture of it in media, which I remember that quite well also, as, a kid growing up kind of on the edge between the 80s and 90s. I was Mabel's age in 92, My idea of what high school was when I was 10 was basically Saved by the Bell. That is not what high school was. And it's simultaneously gotten worse while the depictions of it have gotten rosier. I love the dig at High School Musical in this. Since it's another Disney property, it's cute that they poked a little fun at it here. But yeah, it depicts this image that's like this musical. And no. From all accounts I hear from, people I know who are a little bit younger, went to college, 5, 10 years after me. I keep saying college, I mean high school. Although, if somebody went to high school 5, 10 years after me, odds are they also went to college 5 to 10 years after me if they went. Regardless, from everything I hear, it's gotten worse. It's gotten way worse. And I was already, I went to a pretty tame high school by already the standards of the mid to late 90s. I don't think there's anything like that anymore. Things are rough out there. But yeah, I don't blame Mabel for not wanting to go at all. I don't blame Dipper for wanting to escape it, but at the same time, how is Mabel going to survive that? I can only see a couple of plausible outcomes off of this. One is that Dipper, for whatever reason, doesn't stay in Gravity Falls. Either it's destroyed in, the Weird Mageddon. I don't think the world's going to get destroyed, but Gravity Falls could be. Or Grunkleford sacrifices himself, or gets trapped on the other side of the whatever again. So Dipper ends up going home with Mabel. Or Mabel ends up staying in Gravity Falls somehow. Maybe as Stan's apprentice. That would be pretty hilarious and adorable, and somehow it would work, because I feel like Stan and Mabel are in some ways closer and more alike than Stan and Dipper. Not that Mabel has any of that sleaziness about her, but she has, a way with people. She isn't so much for following rules. I could see that working. On the other hand, where would that leave Seuss? I guess another possibility is that they do end up separated, either by following the plan laid out here, or, God, history could repeat itself and Dipper could end up on the other side. Who knows? I certainly don't. It was a good episode either way, and I'm really looking forward to what happens next. I'm really, after seeing what Bill does in the Mindscape, I'm really curious to see what chaos he can create in the real world. So I am going to go eat some food and watch some Dirty Pair so that I can then watch the next episode of Gravity Falls after I do that vlog. Alright, see you all next time. Bye!